There is plenty of room at the back of the cabin. He bends her over a bunk and his hands are heavy on her hips as he thrusts himself inside her. They don't undress. Their trousers stay around their ankles, almost as if they are expecting to be discovered. She raises her eyes and sees a child smiling at her from a photograph. The child has its chubby arms wrapped around the neck of a chocolate Labrador, and it looks as if they are both smiling. The girl lowers her eyes to the crumpled bedding instead. It isn't long before he cries out and withdraws, quickly, so all the sticky fluid lands on the floor. She bends over and pulls up her knickers. All of a sudden she is dangerously close to crying, and she keeps gulping to smother it. The man seems wide awake. There is a new kind of confidence in his hands as he fastens his belt, like a teenager who's just had his first lay. It amazes her how alike they are. The men? They sit in the front of the cab, smoking. Beyond the massive windscreen, the world is dark and damp. She feels sore, but the feeling of wanting to cry has passed. Where are you going now?
Haparanda, and then back to Skåne again.
His dialect sounds weird, almost like he's singing.
You coming along?
He asks. She turns her head to blow out smoke. I'm going further than Haparanda. His teeth gleam in the darkness. This isn't something he has done before. She can already see the guilty conscience taking shape in him. His voice is trying to smooth out what has just happened. He nods toward the filling station.
I was thinking of getting myself something to eat. Do you want anything?
A cinnamon bun would be good.
Sure. Leave it to me.
He takes the keys from the ignition and smiles shyly at her as he opens the door and steps out. He looks slightly bow-legged as he walks, and he ignores the splashes from the puddles. The girl watches him as he disappears into the shop, wondering whether to ride with him after all. She could get out at Luleå. She has heard it's a pretty big town. And you can disappear in a town. Dusk was the worst. The realization that yet another day has been wasted. A day like every other. She stood in her place behind the till and tried to ignore the darkness as it edged its way across the shop windows. Standing under the harsh fluorescent lights was like being on stage. People who stopped to fill up could see her there in the light. The weary movements, the indifference. The thin hair that wouldn't grow beyond her shoulders, and the false smile that made her cheeks ache. They could see her while she could just about make them out. The filling station was in the middle of the community, and she knew the name of practically every person who came through the door. But she didn't know them. Maybe they thought they knew her. But she was aware of the whispering, at any rate. Björnlund's daughter, who'd had the world at her feet but never did anything about it. And now it was too late. Her beauty and her enthusiasm for life had begun to drain away. The song had gone quiet. The only thing she had achieved was the child, a boy. But how that had happened, nobody could be sure, as she'd never had a man in her life. Not as far as they knew, anyway. The boy had come out of thin air, and despite all the rumours that had circulated over the years, it was never clear who the father was. It was an inconvenient concern that still led to disputes. The only thing the village could agree on was that Liv Björnlund would never be like other people. They might even have felt sorry for her, had it not been for the money. It was hard to feel sorry for someone who was sitting on a fortune. She drank cold vending machine coffee and stole a look at the clock. The seconds beat time inside her forehead. On the dot of 9 she would step off the stage, anyway. If she didn't, her brain would explode. But it was 5 past by the time the night shift guy turned up. If he noticed how desperate she was, he didn't make anything of it.
Your dad's out there waiting, was all he said.
Vidar Björnlund was parked in his usual place by the diesel pump. He sat in his wreck of a Volvo, his claw-like hands painfully clamped on the steering wheel. In the seat behind him, like a shadow, sat Simon with his face in his mobile. She patted his knee before fastening the seatbelt, and for a brief second his eyes met hers. They smiled at each other. Vidar turned the key.